Hi everyone, thank you all for waiting. My name is Montana. On behalf of Surecell, we would welcome and thank you all for joining us online and in person here today. I would like to begin by thanking our sponsors, Hematology, for their contribution to tonight's seminar. They have recently launched their newest over-the-counter range, Monday Sundays, which you will find in your sample bags. This evening you will hear from Dr. Peter Lewis and Dr. Robert Viz, with our special guests joining them, Steve Moore and Dr. Isabella Cilia. We hope that you gain a valuable insight into the power of preventative health. We will have time at the end of the presentation for people watching online and those of you in the audience today to provide us with any questions that you may have, followed by finger food and time to speak with our doctors if you wish. Firstly, I would like to welcome Steve Moore, our exercise physiologist, nutritionist and acupuncturist at Malvern Clinic. With more than 30 years experience, Steve brings together a range of mainstream and complementary therapies to deliver the best possible results for all patients. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Montana. Thanks for coming along tonight too. I'm going to have a chat about preventative health. I want to share a story that's my own health story. Thank you, Dee. And I'm going to just work out this one. And the importance of actually doing some screening to pick up things as soon as you possibly can. And my story relates to an issue I had with my wife pushing me as a relatively healthy male, pushing me to get a heart screen done. I've got a history of heart disease in my family. My father passed away of a sudden heart attack, and she's been pushing me to get a calcium score done to check for my arteries in my heart. And I did that. I saw one of our doctors at our clinic and got that organised, and that was actually okay. My heart's got a pretty low calcium score. But what did come up from that was in a blood test, I had elevated calcium in my blood, which is not linked to my heart. And that came up and the doctor said, it could be a parathyroid issue. So we did another blood test and checked the parathyroid hormone in my blood, which showed high parathyroid hormone in my blood. And that's not such a good thing because it affects your calcium levels in your bones particularly. So from there I had a scan and it showed I had a little growth on a parathyroid gland. And subsequently saw a surgeon and had that removed. But the other thing from there, after getting a DEXA scan done, was I had developed osteoporosis as a result of this. In the background, no symptoms, and being relatively healthy but not having any tests done for probably 3 or 4 years, this problem had the parathyroid thinking that you haven't got enough calcium in your blood, I'm going to take it out of your bones. So without having any symptoms, this thing that happened in the background for me is developing as a relatively significant health problem, which could well have been avoided had I have done what my wife has nagged me to do maybe 3 or 4 years ago and get regular blood tests. So the message from that is, if you're not feeling well, get blood tests, see your doctor, but also if you are feeling healthy, fit and well, it's still worth doing some sort of screening and keeping in contact with your health provider to do those things as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah?
I have a very similar thing, but they 5 times a year picked up very high calcium level, and I was on holiday which is just went to do.
Yes.
And every hospital test for it scans the parathyroid, and out.
There's lots of different, and I'll get a medical doctor to talk to you about that perhaps, but there's lots, I'm seeing an endocrinologist because she's done a whole lot of other screening because there's lots of other things which can cause disruption in calcium and bone loss. But yeah.
My point was to go from one thing to the next, and I get all those things, and you keep on finding more things.
Well, yeah, it's like when you do a renovation of the house, all of a sudden you pull some walls out and all the other things can pop up and give you problems as well. Yeah. So, well, that's right. So the message from that is, and I'm happy to, I won't take questions because otherwise it'll be your day. So I'll take questions at the end if you like, to address those specific things. The other thing we look at, as far as those blood tests, some other simple tests that I would do as an exercise physiologist, looking at people's function of their body, are things like, and especially if I'm working with an older person, I'm just going to skip that one. Balance. So as I'm getting older, there's a significant risk of falls for people who are anywhere from 65 plus. So if I'm testing someone and they can't hold a one-legged balance for at least 10 seconds, as you can see from that sort of research done, 84% elevated risk of death from any cause if I have that. Also, if I'm 65 plus and I have a fall and break a bone, around 25% of people don't live beyond 2 years. So a broken bone and being older has significant health consequences because of the resulting sarcopenia or muscle mass loss and loss of function as well. So I want to get you to stand up for me. So if you can put your little bags away, add a little bit of space, and I might just move this in front of you here. So you've got a chair in front. So without touching the chair, but the chair's there. If you lose balance, grab the chair. 1 foot, count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15. You do this one at home, so you might want to take a photo of this little thing here. So if you didn't get 10 seconds, it's probably a good idea to have a chat with someone like myself to work out an exercise program to make you stronger in your legs and improve your balance and proprioception. So you can see, if I'm not sure if anyone here in my 20s and 30s, no, maybe not, but if I'm looking at 60 seconds as a whole. If I'm aged in my 40s and 50s, I want to be able to hold that balance for 45 seconds. If I'm in my 60s plus, I really want to be able to hold that for 30 seconds as being good. I'm not that keen on being in the poor range or average. I want to be aiming for as good as I possibly can. So there's a simple thing we can do and test to check how my balance is. It's really, really important for, as we all get a bit older, to maintain balance. I'm going to get you a little bit active, all right? Another really important test for measuring your lower body function is what we call 30-second sit to stand. And all it is in your chair, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down in 30 seconds. So it's a measure of your strength and also your power, how quickly you can move. And again, yeah, the test was up. Is anyone under 60? Got a couple under 60s, maybe back there. So I haven't done any ages for below 60. If I'm 60 or 70 and I'm a female, I want to be allowed to do at least 21 times, up, down, males 24 times. If I'm over 80, females 14, males 17. If I'm less than those scores, it indicates that my strength and power in my lower body is not as good as what it could be. The good thing about that is there's things we can do to improve your strength and power. So, who's up for it? We're going to stand up. Actually, we'll start sitting down. I'm going to hit a clock. You've got a bit of space. The stopwatch ready. Wait 1 moment. Are we ready? Yes. So we're going to go from the chair, sit down, stand all the way up tall, knees straight, touch the chair, stand up again. Alright, it's 30 seconds. Are we ready? And go. Stand up, sit down.
Stand up straight.
All the way up tall.
Yeah, that's right.
And we are halfway there. Keep your own score. And we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. So, as well as working your legs, you've got your heart rate going a bit too. So. Again, if you look at your age, where you are, and male, female, you can get an idea of where you're. Again, these are average figures. Again, if I'm looking at average, I want to be down with that.
It is, yes, because I got heels on.
So what that tells us though is that if my score is below average, I really want to be doing something about it. Because it's that functional movement of getting off a chair is that thing I want to be doing while I'm alive. I want to be able to get off the toilet, get out of my car, get off the chair. All those things require power in my legs. And it's what happens when I lose independence. I noticed it's happened with my father-in-law recently, where he's lost strength and power and can't no longer look after himself. Is that you lose your independence once you have to lose your leg strength. Walking upstairs, all those things become more challenging. So as a screening test, it tells me, I'm doing okay, I'll keep doing what I'm doing, or I'm a bit below average. I can, and the good thing about muscles, they're very adaptable, whether you're 70, 80, 90, you can still improve your strength. But it does require a little bit of effort and planning to do that. So my message is, that's it actually. I've been on holidays, I've just come back from 10 days in Bright, so I haven't had quite enough time to prepare as everyone else. But my take-home message from this is this. Work with your trusted health provider, your doctor, your whoever it might be. Get regular health screenings to pick up things as soon as possible. So unlike me, which I may have been able to prevent that osteoporosis had I done this test 3 years ago. But having said that, now I have picked it up, there's things I can do. Things like osteoporosis is a silent thing in the background, doesn't necessarily have symptoms. Things like diabetes can be silent things in the background, so don't necessarily have symptoms. So one of the things I know Dr. Lewis and Dr. Rob here will often do with their PRP patients is we always screen blood for blood sugar levels. It's really important. It's a precursor, unfortunately, diabetes to a whole range of other health conditions, kidney disease, eye disease, heart disease. So as a simple test of blood sugar levels, measuring that, and then it means we can do something about it. Having said that, on the back there at the end of the thing is a little screening test for diabetes you can do. It tells you your risk factors. I run courses for Diabetes Victoria as a prevention program, and they're free. So if you did that little screening test, you had a high score, I'm quite happy to come and have a chat, and we can plug you into a 12-month lifestyle management program, which doesn't cost you a cent. So we do offer things around that as well. Yeah. I think I'm going to take questions at the end. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to sit as long as you like and answer as many questions as you like. But that's me for today, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Steve. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Isabella. Dr. Isabella is completing her fellowship with Australian College of Aesthetic Medicine and has a special interest with multiple published articles in surgery and aesthetic medicine. Welcome, Dr. Isabella.
Let me just make sure that this is perfect. Alrighty, so thanks Montana for the introduction. As mentioned, I am actually a doctor of medicine, even though I look like I'm barely 21. I'm obviously doing quite well within my aesthetic industry. So the reason I'm standing in front of you guys today is because what I've found within my own community of patients is that this concept of wellness is something that it's not readily accessible to us. We see medicine as we access it when we're broken or we need help. But really, to me, what medicine is about is translating to you the process you're going to go through and helping give you the tools necessary to make the right decisions for yourself. And so today I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a preamble for Dr. Rob and Dr. Peter's presentation. So I'm wanting to give you a framework on how to consider yourself as being well and a reference point. So when it comes to living and living well, I want you to consider yourself as thriving. So that's where you have the physical capacity to do the things you want to do. You have a positive social network that you want to get out and about and engage with. And what that leads to is this psychological feeling that when you wake up in the morning, it doesn't matter at what point in your life journey you're at, whether it's a high, whether it's a low, you have the capacity to engage with it and do your very best and to get through it. And so today I'll be focusing mostly on the biological side of things. This is where my special interest comes from. And so the framework that I would like you guys to take away from my talk is these 5 domains of physical wellness. To me, the pattern that I've seen within my communities is that when I optimise these 5 domains, that's when my patients come back to me and they're like, not only have you made me look good, but I feel really good. And that sensation of having that feeling come back to me is absolutely euphoric, and it's something that's probably made me quite addicted to helping people. So the first one is going to be sleep. And if there is one thing for you to remember from the 5 domains of wellness, it is that sleep is the most powerful regenerative medicine tool that you have access to. And so you should protect it. Protect it with everything that you can, and really chase this idea that you're sleeping 6 to 8 hours a night, that you're not waking up more than 2 times, and that you're waking up feeling refreshed. And if you're not getting that, that's an indication you need to speak to your clinician. The other domains that we have are energy, so how easily are you, being able to go through your tasks, see your friends, engage in a cognitive activity. And then we also have mobility, which I know Dr. Lewis is going to be speaking to a little bit more about with platelet-rich plasma and how that can help minimise pain and improve movement. And then we have mood. So do you feel happy with what you're doing? Do you feel content? And finally, your metabolic system. One of the things that makes humans really epic and probably realistically the dominant species on this planet is our ability to consume fuel, store it away, and then access it. Unfortunately, as we get a little bit older, our metabolic system becomes a bit inefficient. And so what I often see is that we're gaining weight, we're doing exercise, we're restricting our intake, but we're not able to lose the weight, and that can be quite frustrating, and also has carry-on effects from a health point of view, because when we have excess fatty tissue, it's really inflammatory. So you're more likely to get injuries from joint aches and pains, you're more likely to develop things like cancers, heart disease, diabetes. So having imbalances within your metabolic system is a really important thing to acknowledge, and we have a lot of awesome tools these days to manage it. So I'll be focusing from these 5 domains of wellness, just because I don't want to bore you all too much, and then I can go on for days for this. I'm going to focus on the sleep and the energy component. So when it comes to sleep, I like to monitor it. The data from sleep is really important, and yes, it can be scary when we're not always getting that 90% sleep score, but that doesn't matter. What the data is useful for you is how hard can I push my body today? So should I be doing the super intense workout that I had planned, or do I need to scale it back? The second thing that you might need to consider is I might be a little bit more irritable to my social network, and so I need to regulate that. And finally, it's also going to affect your immune system. So you're more likely to pick up coughs and colds, and it's important thing that you're not exposing yourself unnecessarily to getting sick, because as we know, when you get sick, you lose your energy, and that has a trickle-on effect to everything else. The pathways that happen during sleep are your GABA, which is your fight and flight pathway. We also have your skeletal muscles, so how much energy are you taking into bed? Are you really tight and tense? Because that's going to impair you from reaching into deep sleep stages. And finally, we've got the central nervous system. How much are you thinking about yesterday's problems or tomorrow's problems, and can you switch that pathway off? And so when we see imbalances within these pathways, this is where we have issues with falling asleep, staying asleep, and then also getting good quality sleep. Fortunately, with a lot of research that's come out in the field of regenerative medicine and this understanding that sleep is so profoundly important, we know now that we can supplement with products such as L-theanine, L-tryptophan and magnesium, and working to really optimise and supplement these pathways. So L-theanine is going to help with our GABA pathway. It is a precursor to this neurotransmitter. L-tryptophan is your precursor to melatonin, which we know is the regulator of our circadian rhythm. It also has the added benefit of being a precursor to serotonin, so you sleep well and you feel great the next day, which is awesome. And then finally, magnesium glycinate or threonate. They're the main forms of magnesium that won't give you stomach upset and will help with muscle relaxation. When it comes to prescribed medications, this is what we would use if, despite supplementation, despite the behavioural changes that you're making, you're still not getting the right amount of sleep. And as a medical practitioner who does focus on wellness medicine, I think that we have really made a big taboo around prescription-based medicines and helping with sleep. It's not to say that Valium is the way to go, but we have a lot of other tools in our tool belts that are less addictive, don't give you cognitive side effects the next day, and are less likely to make you have a falls risk than the benzodiazepines. So, ooh, it disappeared there. Let me just bring that back up. We've gone to sleep. We've gone to sleep. There we go, we're back. Okay, perfect. There's always got to be one hiccup. If you are struggling with your sleep, please speak with your healthcare practitioner. You need to protect your sleep because no one else is going to do it for you. And so when it comes to the daily things that you can all do, get good supplements and really engage with the positive behaviours that are going to help fortify your sleep. So when we look at sleep, we have the trickle-on effect that it should help with your energy. But in this day and age, we are so busy. We have so many excess stresses that we're having to manage, from increasing environmental pollutions to just the social stresses that we have within our communities, and also the sheer volume of things that we do today. We've all got sports, we've got hobbies, we've got families, we've got the parties we want to go to. So having enough energy to do those things is a delight, and it's unfortunately a part of the physical domains of wellness that not everyone has access to. So again, just like with sleep, there's a way to monitor this, but it's qualitative. So you have to ask yourself this question. You can't look at your watch and it will tell you how much energy you have. So the way that I screen it with my patients, are you getting energy dips between 2 and 4 p.m? Are you needing daily naps? And are you waking up feeling refreshed? If you're ticking no to all of those things, then it's likely that either your behavioural side of things, you're taking on too much, or you're not supplementing properly. And there are things that we can do for that. So the two pathways that are involved with energy, catecholamines, that's your dopamine and noradrenaline. They're your get up and go neurotransmitters. And then the next one that we have is your mitochondrial optimization. So not only do we have the neurotransmitter driving you, but then we also have how well can your body's energy systems be accessed. And so with the supplementation, tyrosine is the precursor to dopamine and noradrenaline. So you can take that. CoQ-enzyme 10 helps reduce the fatigue within your body, and it's that nice balance between increasing levels, decreasing fatigue. And finally, probably one of the more important ones from my perspective is vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually a hormone, and it is the greatest hormone deficiency that we have within our society. Within Caucasians, 50% of us are insufficient with our vitamin D intake, and vitamin D receptors are found in every single cell in your body. So it has a very important role in your energy, in your mood, in your immune system, and it needs to be replaced. We live in a part of Australia where we don't see much sun. So you have to replace this hormone, and it's going to really help with energy, and it's also going to help with reducing the risk of you getting sick. Again, there are prescription-based medications that we can use, and then finally, the behavioural side of things, stimulus control, nutrition, exercise. Exercise gives you the stamina to go about your day-to-day life. And by being fit and having a higher ratio of skeletal muscle to fatty tissue, you're also going to in turn reduce the inflammation within your system. Being well is being in a state of low levels of inflammation and high levels at which that you can regenerate despite the wear and tear that you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And I do appreciate it does get harder as we get older to maintain that system, but that's why this framework I've developed is so that we can take it away and isolate what parts we need to fix. So mobility, how easily can we walk from A to B, what's our range of motion, and do we get pain? Peter's definitely going to be speaking a lot more about this, and I thoroughly look forward to it. But essentially the take-home message, as before, increase the muscles, decrease the fat, make sure that you have a recovery framework for if you get an injury, and then finally escalate if you have an acute injury. If you have an ache and pain that is needing regular analgesia, so more than a few days of painkillers, or finally if it's impacting on your sleep or day-to-day activities. Please see your clinician, don't put up with it. These are signs that your body is suffering, and there will be ways to heal it faster. The last two are metabolic and mood. These are complex ones, but ultimately if you address the first three, so your sleep, your energy and your mobility, generally what I see is that the metabolic and the mood system fix themselves on their own, or they at least have a significant improvement. So in summary, I'm going to jump off the stage soon and let Dr. Rob and Dr. Peter speak. I want you to take away that we do need to support our physical domains of wellness. It is an absolute joy to get to learn our bodies and learn how they work and what you need to do to fortify yourself, and take pride in it. Your body is the one that you get, the one vehicle that you get. It's a Ferrari, treat it like it's a Ferrari, and service it regularly, and as I said, with pride. And probably the most important thing is surround yourself with clinicians who actually care. You want to go to someone who, when you tell them you've got a problem, they turn to you, they look at you, and they want to listen and they want to help you. I've been on the receiving end of poor medical care, I think we all have, and it's been a really big learning curve. And please, if you don't feel comfortable with your clinician, you don't think they're listening to, doesn't matter. There are other ones out there, just like myself, Dr. Peter, Dr. Rob, who do in fact care about your outcomes and you being well. We've got a lot of life left to live, so let's make it good.
Thank you, Dr. Isabel, for coming and sharing with us tonight. I would like to welcome Dr. Rob, who joined Surecell exactly a year ago tomorrow. Dr. Rob has a special interest in anti-aging medicine and peptides for the treatment of injuries and wellness. Welcome, Dr. Rob.
Hi, nice to say hi to everybody. So my talk is about, can you go back, Jackson? So we're going to be talking about ageing and the revolution that is upon us now with anti-aging medicine. So neither Dr. Izzy, Peter Lewis or myself learned about ageing in medical school, and here we are in 2024 and the whole internet, all of medical science is exploding with anti-aging research, and there's plenty of gurus on YouTube and all over the place and we'll talk to you all about it. So I'm basically going to take the approach that there are hallmarks of ageing. If you want to do it for me, just flip over to the next slide. Okay, so basically ageing is now seen to be a process that we can actually have some effect on. And there are a number of modalities that we can talk about, and those methods of treatment are addressed at different hallmarks of ageing. So there are different signs that we can look at, that we can gather through medical tests, blood tests, genetic tests about the ageing of the human body, and we can try and target those different signs of ageing. Before we sort of go into this, in the slides you'll see of each of the hallmarks of ageing. I've got various interventions with stars next to them, and each of those stars have the level of evidence that's currently available. The more stars, the more medical evidence there is. The less stars, the less evidence there is based on human beings. The only proven regimes that have helped with anti-aging that we know about are caloric restriction and also exercise. And I must say that a lot of studies are done on mice and on animals, and we can't necessarily extrapolate that to human beings. We might be able to draw a lot of inferences, but we can't exactly extrapolate, which stands to reason. So bring the next slide, please, Monty. So here are the hallmarks of ageing, and this shows us that there are 14 hallmarks of ageing, and a lot of them revolve around the energy production of the cell division. A lot of them revolve around the genetics of the human cells and the build-up of toxins and the body's ability to clear those toxins, pretty much relating to what Dr. Izzy was talking about before. So health span is to improve our health for as long as we possibly live, and lifespan is to try and also improve the length of years whilst maintaining our health as best as possible. So can we have the next slide, please? So as Izzy was referring to before, inflammation is the enemy. As we get older, our inflammatory proteins in the bloodstream increase, and also as we get older, the balance between inflammation and anti-inflammation changes. So when we're young, we have very strong anti-inflammatory response to many processes affecting the body, and as we get older, that ability to fight those inflammatory processes decreases. So you find out that inflammation increases in every single person here who's got a grey hair, who's got a wrinkle, who's got an aging muscle. All of that is due to inflammation and the inability of the body's immune system to be able to keep up the way we used to keep up when we were back in the under 25 age group. So if we can head on to the next slide, please. So these are the effects of ageing. So without having to go through every single one of them, you can see that every single organ in the body is affected by ageing. Adipose tissue, fat, sarcopenia, which is what Steve was talking about before, loss of muscle mass as we get older, and the high risk of falls as people get older as well. And then of course vitamin D as well, and it's prominent in muscle tissue, it's very important for balance. And then so on, you can go to cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, neurodegenerative disease, which is relating to the Alzheimer type condition, Parkinson's disease and those sorts of things. And of course, good old arthritis. So what I've done here, as you can see, which I spoke about before, is these are some of the non-drug related anti-inflammatory treatments, and you can look at the levels of evidence. So those two particular products, they're things that you can readily get, they're readily available, and you can source them pretty much from anywhere on the internet, Amazon, iHerb, or some of the more common people sell these products. So can we have the next slide, please? Okay. So here's another area where there are some proven interventions, and that's telomeres. So telomeres are like the little plastic end caps of our shoelaces. When we lose those end caps, the shoelaces get frayed and they go all over the place, they go into knots, they can attach to each other. And the same thing happens with chromosomes. So our chromosomes have got these little protective ends on them, and as the cells divide, and guess what? We only have 50 cell divisions per cell. It's called the Hayflick limit. Once you reach 50 cell divisions, your telomeres have gone right down to the raw DNA. Now, generally when that happens, the cell will die. That's called apoptosis. However, sometimes the cells don't die, and they sort of chug along in what's known as a senescent state. And a lot of these senescent cells release a protein which causes other cells to go into this senescent cell. So they've got the nickname of zombie cells. So senescent cells, they also have a function because they can relieve some aspects of inflammation. So you can't just zap all those senescent cells. And there are some agents now which are called senolytics, which you can zap all those senescent cells and stop the damage that they do, but you might also be zapping ones that are helpful. So there's this newer class of agents called xenomorphic agents, which basically just calm down the senescent cells from producing the toxins or from getting other cells to be actively zombie-like, and that puts them in a sort of a state of stasis, as it were. So there are a number of telomere lengthening treatments. The two most proven ones are hyperbaric oxygen therapy, caloric restriction. There is a peptide, my favourite topic, called epitalon, that's also evidence-based treatment for lengthening telomeres, and yoga and mindfulness. Who would have thought? Yoga and mindfulness lengthens the telomeres. And then there are a couple of other supplements like grapeseed and a Chinese herb called astragalus. So can we have the next slide, please? So this is just a quick run over of what the senescent cells are like. And as I was saying to you before, they affect other cells and it turns them into zombie cells, and they then have their effect at slowing down the body's ability to make proteins and to repair itself. And of course the immune system needs to be activated to try and stop them. The immune system's not so good, so the process continues. I've put a couple of senolytic agents there. The top one there is gingerone. It comes from ginger root. Highly potent senolytic agent. Rapamycin, which we'll talk about later, carnosine, a drug called digoxin, and a couple of others, taurine, quercetin, and dasatinib. All got very good levels of evidence. But the problem is, you might be destroying too many senescent cells for your own good. So you've got to use with caution. As you said, get your health practitioner to help you when you're looking at supplements. Next slide, please. All right. Now this is something really, really interesting. Basically, we all know that there's this. A lot of you might have seen the Blue Zones. Who put their hands the Blue Zones on Netflix? Okay, so with the Blue Zones, they found these groups of centenarians or super centenarians located at different parts of the world. And a lot of research has gone into that because the question is, what is that special thing that these super centenarians have that gives them that extra 10 or 15 years And not only that, they are in bloody good health in the last years of their lives. A lot of them will say they've smoked and drank their whole life. Some of the people who are in their early hundreds would go to their apartment door with a cigarette and a glass of whiskey to greet the interviewer. There's a lot of good anecdotes about those sorts of people if you look at the studies. Anyway, bottom line is they found that a lot of these people have an extra special DNA repair enzyme. They have a number of copies of it, whereas most of us who aren't in supercentenarian families, we only have like one copy. However, trimethylglutarate and a seaweed extract called fucoidan from Japan and also from Tasmania as well, they actually increase the level of that DNA repair enzyme to 60 to 70% of that of a supercentenarian. And not only that, matcha green tea, it has epigallocatechin gallate in it, otherwise fondly known as EGCG, and that's also been shown to increase the level of that DNA repair enzyme by about 25 to 30%. So, seaweed, green tea. Let's have the next one next. Okay, I'll quickly skip through this one, go to the next one. Okay, now this is the other huge area that we can actually affect. It's the mitochondria. So mitochondria, our energy powerhouse of the cell, makes ATP. If we don't have enough ATP, we don't have enough energy to make our vital proteins, to repair our DNA, to have our immune system, T cells functioning. And as the mitochondria, as we age, we make less mitochondria as well. So the mitochondria can easily be damaged by external sources, pollution, ultraviolet radiation, for example, cigarette smoke, alcohol, sadly, and lots of other stuff from the outside environment. And these build up what are known as reactive oxygen species. Now those reactive oxygen species, they further damage the mitochondria. And not only that, as the mitochondria age, they make more reactive oxygen species which create more damage. So you're getting into these ever widening circles of damage and inability to keep up with that damage and to keep on top of it. Can we next slide, please? So a crucial component of the mitochondria is called NAD drops. Not only that, the scavenging mechanism for the reactive oxygen species also drops as we age. So you can see over there in that little graph on the left, you've got your NAD levels going down as we get older. Around age 40, things start to really happen in the body. And you also find that the reactive oxygen species go up. However, there is some good news. We know from clinical studies that if people have glycine and N-acetylcysteine, you can actually mop up a lot of those reactive oxygen species. And we've actually done human studies that show that elderly people who take this GlyNAC combination, they can actually improve their muscle mass, improve their energy, improve their duration of exercise, and improve the recovery of exercise to that of 40-year-olds. So people in the late 60s are able to improve their function simply by mopping up those reactive oxygen species with glutathione, which is made up of glycine and N-acetylcysteine. Other ways of tweaking the mitochondria are to take supplements that pick up the NAD levels that makes NAD. So NMN, you might have heard of David Sinclair, he promotes NMN all over the place on the internet. David Sinclair is a famous anti-aging professor from Harvard. So NMN is a precursor of NAD, which can make the more ATP, which makes more energy. So I won't keep going into all these different supplements, but just to say to you that there are a number of mitochondrial rejuvenation agents which can actually pick up our energy levels and help to actually slow down some of the inflammatory processes and aging processes. Maybe next slide, please. Okay. Now, this is my favourite molecule, discovered in Easter Island in a volcano. The natives used to go there when they wanted to get a burst of energy. Discovered by a Canadian research expedition in the early 1970s. They took soil samples back to Canada and they found that this product of a bacteria in the soil, known as rapamycin, had a dramatic effect on extending the lifespan in mice. It was originally tried out as an anti-cancer drug, but they found that a group that didn't have cancer that were given rapamycin actually lived longer than a control group that had neither cancer nor rapamycin. So lots and lots of studies have been done, and what has been discovered is a whole new class of molecules called nutrient-sensing molecules, of which mTOR, the mammalian target of rapamycin, controls our nutrient sensing in our cells. Every cell in the human body has thousands of molecules of mTOR. So what does mTOR do? Basically, when times are really tough, when the body's being stressed, so no food, no water, what happens is the mTOR gets activated and it shifts the cell from dividing into, I'm not dividing, I'm going to recycle and scavenge all the crap that's inside me, and I'm going to remodel it and remake it and use it again and again and again and again and again. And that's what happens. It slows down the cell division rate. Now, having cells divide is very good. That's what we do because we need to reproduce, we need to grow, we need cell division. But the cells divide blindly. It's like a quasi-programmed longevity. The cells keep dividing until they hit that 50 mark. But as they're dividing, they're also building up a lot of rubbish, which makes them ineffective even though they're still dividing. Rapamycin will stop that. Not only that, experiments on mice have also shown that by adding metformin or another anti-diabetic drug called acarbose, you can even extend lifespan even more in mice. And you can see that if you look at that chart over to the right there's quite significant improvements in lifespan. You're talking about 20% of improvement in lifespan. And even if one takes these, or even if mice, are given these later on in life, let's say you're 80 years old and you start on this medication, you can actually increase your lifespan by about 20%, which is quite significant. But not only that, if we can have the next slide, but not only that, if you're a mouse, you're going to end up looking like the guy on the right and not like the guy on the left as you're living longer. So it's quite impressive, and you can see the graphs up the top there showing the line in red, which is sort of shifted to the right. That shows the increased lifespan of these mice. And not only do they increase their lifespan, they increase their health span. You have the next slide. Okay, and this is really quite interesting. Studies were later on done to see what happens when you use this rapamycin later on in life. And what they've actually found is in mice, very old mice, when you add the rapamycin, it can be effective later in life, but it also persists. You don't have to keep taking it all the time. It's got a prolonged effect. And not only that, the health span of these mice increases. Less cancer, less cardiac diseases, normal brain aging, including vascular aging and neurodegenerative like processes. They all decrease with the use of rapamycin. There are lots and lots of studies being done as we speak on rapamycin in human beings to look at the effects on health, on muscle strength, on cardiac, on cognitive function as well. And there's actually a study going on in the States right now called the ITP, the Intervention Treatment Program, where they're looking at thousands and thousands of dogs, and they're giving them lots and lots of different things to see which ones affect their aging. So if we can go to the next slide. Almost there, guys. Okay, now we come to taurine. Taurine is an amino acid which basically has also been shown to increase lifespan and health span in quite a number of animal species. Yeasts, worms, mice, and also primates. So we're sort of getting close to human beings. We can go to the next slide. And astaxanthin. This has been recently discovered. It comes in salmon. It's an antioxidative molecule that's effective at scavenging free radicals at the surface and inside of the mitochondrial membrane. And it's actually been studied in this ITP study to prolong the life of dogs by about 12 to 15%. So that's also something that's quite safe, quite readily available as well. And we have the next slide, thanks. And finally, to cut off the end of this long and monotonous lecture talk, here are some other things that you can do at home for yourself to improve your general health. Heat shock proteins. So, sauna, get into that sauna. It releases all these amazing proteins that help to protect our cells in mitochondria and to help other proteins repair themselves. Cold therapy, the ice baths that we all see the footballers and the celebrities taking, they're also quite wonderful at giving us a boost of energy and protecting our body's proteins. And then you've got the light, vitamin D3, and the dark, melatonin. So melatonin is an anti-inflammatory agent. Most people don't know that only 10% of melatonin is made in the pineal gland for sleep. The other 90% made in the mitochondria. So therefore, mitochondria start to fade away as we get older, and melatonin production decreases. So that also promotes inflammation in the body. Near-infrared light, Izzy and I were talking about this before. Near-infrared light has been shown to be really useful in healing tendons, muscles, ligaments, and also arthritis. And Peter Lewis and I've been looking at incorporating this in the clinic to help with the PRP as another adjunct to treatment. And finally, the other thing that we're doing, and I'm not going to bore you all with it, is peptides, which we can save for the next time we have a talk, okay? So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Any questions later on? Peter, Monty, thanks a lot, guys, for organising this. Mick, wonderful. And Izzy and Steve, enjoyed your talks tremendously. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Rob. I would like to welcome Dr. Peter Lewis, the Director of Surecell. Dr. Peter Lewis is on the board of the American Board of Regenerative Medicine. He is an expert in the field of platelet-rich plasma therapy, having lectured and educated health professionals worldwide. Welcome, Dr. Peter Lewis.
Thank you very much, Montana. I'm actually going to break a rule. There's something I want to do. I've said we'll do the questions at the end, but I've actually got a question that I want to ask. Dr. Rob, thank you very much for warming the audience up. And Dr. Isabella from Surecell. If you had to go to a desert island and you're only allowed to take 3 supplements with you, what would the 3 supplements that you take be?
Well, is it a sunny desert island?
Good question, because vitamin D's on my list. Okay.
So, yeah, I would absolutely put vitamin D and K2 combined.
Yeah.
As one. That's a cheating.
Cheating, yeah.
That's cheating a little bit.
This is all about cheating. Seminar, isn't it? We're cheating aging process.
I would take A-carbose.
Yeah.
And I'd be tossing up, it'd be hard to get rapamycin there, so astaxanthin from the red salmon that are swimming around like fish if I was alone.
Could you repeat that?
So he's going to take with him some rapamycin, he's going to get the vitamin D in the fish, and he's taking A-carbose and maybe some K2 to go with the sunlight.
D and K2 together.
Yeah.
They come together.
Yeah. Vitamin D, K2 combo. Right.
Yeah.
Is it?
I'd take vitamin D, magnesium glycinate, and then I'd also take tyrosine.
Right, okay. I'd probably take some Q10, vitamin D, and some growth hormone.
Is that a vitamin?
No, a supplement.
Vitamin G.
Vitamin G. That's right. Okay. Okay, thank you very much to my team for helping me prepare these slides and for organising tonight's seminar. And thank you to you, my audience, for sharing your time with me. In return, I'd like to share with you my passion for the subject of PRP and regenerative medicine, which I believe to be the most important advance in medicine since the development of antibiotics. Tonight, I think you already know who I am. I love PRP. Tonight I'm going to talk about platelet-rich plasma Can I just ask you as an audience, hands up if you're already a PRP patient and you're pretty familiar with the process and role of PRP? Good. Hand up if you're new to PRP and we're really going from beginner basics. Okay. And hands up if you're a healthcare professional, practitioner or exercise physiologist. Good. Okay. So I'll try and pace myself so I give a little bit to everyone of all the things they're interested in. So we're going to talk first of all some basics about PRP. Then I'm going to talk, we've had a lull in all our presentations over COVID and we're back and it's good to see you back as well. And I'm going to fill you in on all the things that have happened over the last 4 years in the PRP field. And then I think we're past the point of talking about whether PRP works. What we're talking about now is how to make it work better. So I'm going to fill you in at the end of the things, the developments, the extra things you can do to enhance your outcomes. The PRP, well, we like to be myth busters, okay? And there's a number of myths around. In a way, the first one is PRP, platelet-rich plasma, which is probably a misnomer. It should really be called growth factor-rich plasma because we know the process of PRP involves centrifugation and then we get, as everyone knows, threefold increases in platelet numbers. And platelets are good, so that's good. But actually PRP does work much better than that. And the reason it works better is because of growth factors. Now, how you think, oh, we've got 3 times more growth factors as well. But no, not really. It's much better than that because most of these growth factors are actually stored inside cells in little vacuoles, in little packages. They're extremely potent and they're only slowly released normally into the serum. Now, when we spin PRP, we actually cause the platelets to release all the intracellular vacuoles of these growth factors, so they become extracellular. And in the process, we get up to 50 times the normal concentration of growth factors, because these things are very potent. Now, one of those growth factors is growth hormone, which we know a lot about. And growth hormone is in fact really potent. When we use it, we use a tiny little bit throughout the entire body because it's a transmitter chemical that causes other cells to then release their own and get active. So let's call it growth factor rich plasma. Now, what we do, I'm very proud of our systems at our clinic. It's not just based on the idea that cells work, although we'll be doing a lot about how cells work. But more than that, we have a different diagnostic process. So generally when you go to a doctor, the way the doctor determines what's wrong is to look at an X-ray. But we've known for decades that actually the core of good medicine is good history, then good physical examination. And what we do uniquely is to use lots of local anaesthetic. My life is very simple. I just want to fix pain. And my job is very simple. It's to put the right stuff in the right place. Local anaesthetic allows me to determine if I'm in the right place. And if the local will temporarily relieve your pain, then probably the PRP will fix the problem in the long term. But our third weapon is teamwork. And we have a great team, and we spend a lot of time involved in education, not only of doctors and nurses from other clinics worldwide, but also we spend a lot of time in our own internal education. Thanks, guys. And just on that, we are now back from an educational point of view. And thanks for supporting us by coming, but also I've got a favour I want from you. We want to do more seminars. We're quite enthusiastic now. And I want your feedback on what we do well tonight, and also want your feedback on how to do it better and what you're interested in us doing for you at our next seminar. So that's a call to you who are here present, but also we know there are a lot of people watching online, and we want those online people to feel involved in the process, send us questions, and also send us suggestions for what you want in the future. So the reason we have this team is because we basically need to leverage the doctor's times. My fundamental job, what I enjoy, is sticking needles in knees. So I have a team to help me collect data, collect blood, process it, and prepare everything. So we can focus on what we enjoy doing, and that means we can make the PRP affordable for you, because a consistent theme tonight will be cost-benefit analysis on affordability. And we've tried to make our treatment affordable for you because that allows us to collect data and gain experience, so we can improve and perfect our process and then move on and share it with others, because we are basically the only PRP clinic which is so busy that people can come to where we are to learn PRP from us. You can divide PRP into two groups, the musculoskeletal and the cosmetic. Rob and I are basically musculoskeletal, so we're interested in muscle injuries, ligament, tendons, and degenerative conditions. And here's a call out to you. We have discovered that we get extraordinary results when we get to an injury very early. Not so much so with arthritis, although please don't leave it too late, but for the acute injuries, what we really want to do is to spread the word out there that when you're injured, come to the clinic straight away. And the receptionist may say he's booked out, but you say, no, Dr. Peterlove said, I'm an emergency VIP to squeeze in. And we can always squeeze you in, even if it's at the end of the day. But I'm really enthusiastic, particularly with a lot of professional athletes, really enthusiastic to get you into the clinic within the first hour after you've torn something. So please spread the word out there, and my receptionist, forgive me for saying this, but we're going to squeeze those acute injuries in. Now the cosmetic side of this, sort of stuff Dr. Isabella specialises in, and we've got the other side of the clinic doing. This is the rejuvenation and treatment of scars in the face or hair. Now we get to the growth factors. This is the really chunky part. So the most well-known growth factor of all is growth hormone. The ones that are unique to PRP treatment, platelet-derived growth factor. This is an exciting growth factor because it does two things. It causes ingrowth into the damaged area of new blood vessels, neoangiogenesis. Now what that actually means, if you look at old-fashioned scar tissue, it looks like chewing gum that you find underneath desks. It's yellowy white, has no blood vessels going through it, no flexibility, ability to move, no oxygen supply into it, and it re-tears and re-injures very easily. Getting blood vessels growing into a damaged area means that instead of healing with collagen scar tissue, you're getting new muscle tissue, new tendons, repairing the area so it's as good as it was originally. Now the other thing that platelet-derived growth factor releases in the blood is macrophages. Now macrophages are the Pac-Man of the bloodstream. They're the little munchy things that go around and they gobble up scar tissue. And this is great from a cosmetic point of view because it allows you to repair some of the damaged tissue. But in terms of us treating scar tissue, it's the macrophages or Pac-Man that we want to get in there. No surprise that vascular endothelial growth factor also is involved in those blood vessels growing in, and transforming growth factor beta is something we're going to talk about later because it's really exciting. It causes your stem cells in your body, they're already there, to become activated and mobilized. And they're the cells that will divide and create new tissue. So you don't need to go to Panama or Mexico to get stem cells. They're already there in your body, and you can activate them with transforming growth factor beta. And then we've got the epidermal growth factor, which also is involved in cell differentiation, as is the connective tissue growth factor, and the interleukin-like growth factors, which also accelerate healing and get more cells to go into the damaged area to create new tissue growth. Now, we've got a lot of data. Some of that data is in the form of X-rays and also MRIs. This is a Tasmanian lady who couldn't walk when she came to see us, and her X-rays in 2015 were reported by the radiologists as severe. Over a year later, when we did repeat X-rays, they were reported as moderate. And you can see not only has the gap increased slightly with some cartilage regrowth, but also there's a little bit of improvement in the osteophytes. Now, that doesn't mean everybody is going to get as dramatic an X-ray improvement as that, but it does prove something that I think we no longer need to prove, which is that we can regrow cartilage and we can reverse osteoarthritis when we get there in time. Ken, remember that? We've got data on what we can treat, and fairly much we treat pain. We can go pretty much anywhere where it's hurting, but certainly 53% of what we treat is knees, but we also can do shoulders and now the large joints, but I also quite enjoy doing the small and more challenging joints. The black belt stuff was like thumbs and fingers and toes and temporomandibular joints. There's nothing really that is a joint or a tendon or a ligament that we can't get to with a long enough needle. A bit of local. Now, we started off looking at pain scores for outcomes, and the pain score beforehand in a lot of our patients was really quite severe. We had a lot of 10 out of 10 pains and quite a few 8 out of 10s before treatment in the blue. But then after treatment, a lot of patients then had pain scores more around 3, 4 or 5, and it was very rare that someone would still have 10 out of 10 pain after treatment. Now, we're in a fairly unique position because we have, I believe, the largest database of PRP-treated patients. And that's allowed us to crunch the data a bit and look at subgroups. And this is another myth that I want to bust, and the myth is that we can't treat old people or that stem cells and regenerative cells damage as you get older. So again, you have to go to Mexico or Panama to buy embryo or fetal cells. And this is a myth that we needed to attack, and we were able to attack it with our database. There's another thing that is, I think, a call to action here. As we looked at our age groups, we saw that our biggest single age group was people in the 50 to 60 age bracket. They're the ones coming to our clinic. Now, I'm worried about that because they are not the ones with the worst arthritis. So I think we're fighting the myth that old people can't get better with regenerative treatment, but also I think we need to get the word out there. That's why we're here tonight, to get the word out there to maybe the people in the over 60 age group, that we can help them and that this new technology is available to help people with degenerative conditions. So the question was, does age matter in terms of outcomes? And in terms of pain score, no. We can see very clearly pain improvement is pretty consistent. We looked at other factors. A good measure is, would people recommend the treatment to others? Please do. Results very similar. We looked at patient satisfaction, very similar. We looked at the cost effectiveness in the patient's eyes of the PRP, very similar. So across all these different treatment measures of outcome, our results are consistent by how you measure and also consistent across age groups. I remember giving a lecture like this about 5 or 6 years ago in Thailand, and I got to this point in the lecture, and I got to the point where I said we can't treat backs, and then I looked in the audience and I saw there were 2 people in the audience who'd had their backs treated. One of them somewhere else, but I'd known him for a while, and I knew he'd had some treatment, and his back had improved tremendously. Now that's important for us today for two reasons. One is because it changed our whole approach, and we started treating backs from that day onwards. And we've now collected data which shows that backs are in fact one of our best areas to treat. Now the other good thing about that is, by a massive coincidence, that fellow is sitting in the audience today, but not just as a member of the audience, but now I'm proud to say there's a doctor who's working with us. Thank you, George. So it's great to have George on board, because of his long experience in the PRP and stem cell field, but also just a great fellow to have in our team. And I think this is one of the things we're really happy about. George, big interest in DNA and genetic stuff. Rob, big interest in anti-aging peptides. Me, PRP, which you all love. So we actually complement, and we've got a great team down there. And we have fun. That's good. So we're now doing backs. We're getting a lot of referrals, patients to our clinic for treatment of backs, particularly by our physio and osteopath and chiropractor friends. And what we're particularly seeing is that they're often selecting the backs that we do best with. And these are the sacroiliac joints, which I think we do better than anyone else. We can do some of the other back conditions, but they're the ones that really are outstanding. And what's important for you to know is that when a doctor orders an MRI of the back, a lot of people think that, the whole back? No. An MRI of the lumbar spine views the lumbar spine. It doesn't actually show the SIJs. So there is no report on the radiologist report about the condition of the SIJs, usually. And quite often, I have some time explaining to patients that although they have got a grotty old back, as have we all at our age, their problem is actually coming from 4 inches away at the sacroiliac joint. And one of our other goals, our goals are basically to avoid excessive use of drugs and surgery. In this data collection, we'd had 1,800 of the people who collected data from patients at our clinic have been told you need surgery. And when we followed them up at 6 months, we found that the majority had avoided surgery. And I'm seeing now regularly patients who've been coming 8-10 years of regular attendance in our clinic, still well maintained. So we're back, but a lot's happened over the last few years. And one of the things that's pretty exciting is data collection. So I come from a position of having been saying to people 10 years ago, this new PRP thing, we've got a few studies on it. The number of studies has been growing geometrically over the last 20 years. So back in 2002, there were 6 studies in the year. The last couple of years, 230 studies in 1 year. So this rate at which studies are being done is enormous. And so actually it's a source of some frustration for me that some health care bureaucrats, not enough data yet, work cover, not enough studies, new and innovative. Hang on, guys. There's not a lot of areas where you've got like 1,700 studies. And the number of papers on the subject has actually blown out over 20,000 papers on the subject. So this is not an area where there isn't much data. There's a wealth of data, and a lot of that data is very good. Now we should be a bit embarrassed because the countries that are leading the way in this are America, China, and in third place, Italy. Now, I personally think that we've missed the boat on a lot of this stuff. And one of the reasons, again, comes back cost-benefit analysis. So both America and China are now offering item numbers. In other words, PRP can be billed to the insurance companies and the government. And we're way behind the 8 ball because we're not doing that. So let's hope we'll catch up one day. But at the moment, there's some lobbying to do to get support for this treatment. And we are behind these other countries. And in the United States, it's interesting how it's evolving. Their numbers are going up, but still in the United States, only about 5 out of every 100,000 orthopaedic treatments are PRP. So in a way, this is a huge challenge, an exciting time for us, because I am absolutely convinced that in 10 years' time, we're going to have maybe 10 times more PRP being offered. And this is a great, exciting place to be in, a great, exciting field. But wow, we've got so much to go. The other interesting thing is in the United States, the cost of PRP averages out at $1,000 a treatment. So consider yourself a bit lucky, guys. But include up to $1,700 for a hip PRP injection. And we actually had an occasional patient flying in from America for treatment, particularly when they're pilots. Trends in Australia, there's this interesting data collection here. So we used to have a PRP item number in Australia. It was abused. Some people were just ripping the system off. They were giving PRP with an X-ray and an ultrasound billed to Medicare every fortnight. There was a 400% increase in the Medicare budget. And so they just said, right, it's gone. They should have probably gone, let's restrict how this is accessed and let's not hit for all this imaging but we've lost the item number. We've got to work to get that back, because that's going to allow us to really do our thing properly, make it affordable for the average person. And cost is a barrier to treatment and growth. Now, again, cost benefit comes in on this. I've got my young medical students to look at PRP studies and which studies show it works and doesn't work. It's really interesting. There are some studies that show that it doesn't work, proven, and there are a lot of studies that prove that it does. What's the difference? Every single study that failed to show a benefit used a small volume of PRP. Basically, in the large volume studies, they all showed PRP works. It says a little bit about how science can be rigged to get the outcomes that you want, which is disappointing. We've seen that other. We know that some studies have been funded by opposition, like hyaluronic that have frozen the PRP before using it. No, they managed to prove that PRP doesn't work. Right. So how you design studies is important, but there's an important take-home message for us, which I'm really pleased about, because we've always used large volume PRP. Large volume PRP works. Now, why? When you look at the studies and put them all together, basically it's pretty simple. Small volume PRP trials, they use 1 tube. Large volume, they use 2 tubes. We always use 2 tubes for the big joints. Now, some of this is about economics. Tubes are expensive. Now, we've fought that by actually manufacturing and importing our own tubes, which we share with our friends, which is good, but it allows us to make it affordable. That's really critical to the growth of this. Now, in the cosmetic field, it's even more extreme, because some of the cosmetic tubes are horrendously expensive. Now, our girls will commonly use 4 tubes for cosmetics, but we know some other clinics are only using 1 tube. Well, the results aren't so great, guys, and we know this, all right? So that's the mission we're on. So even high volume PRP just works and getting great results, and patient getting better. The other thing is, of course, how many treatments do you do? And we're pretty generous at getting people to come back, because we want excellent results. If you have 1 treatment only, typically it's 50% benefit. 2 treatments, it's about 63%. 4 treatments, 70% better. 4 treatments, 83% better. So giving PRP as a full course means that the number of people who don't get good results becomes very small. And then when you look at the 17% that don't benefit in the 4 treatment course, about 8% didn't get better, and about 8% aren't sure. They don't know. It could have been the PRP, it could have been the physio, it could have been the weight loss that got them across the line. So we're very encouraging of people getting great results, because we really want the word to get out there to other people. Now, what can we do to make PRP work better? What are other things? So we use light-activated PRP. You've already heard from the other speakers how basically one of the most exciting areas in medicine is the development of light therapy. I had the privilege of being at a meeting overseas where a group of doctors will ask, where is medicine going? And the most common answer is light therapy. We activate our PRP with light, which is not as common as it should be, and I think it has a distinct advantage. Number one, we just know this from a pain point of view. Light-activated PRP doesn't hurt so much. But the studies are now showing that what happens when we light-activate the PRP is it actually works better. The platelets are more effective, but more specifically, transforming growth factor beta is increased in the subsequent serum by a significant factor. There's a lot more of it there. It's like nearly 3 times more. Now, we love transforming growth factor beta because, again, it means we don't have to go to Panama because it's activating the stem cells in your body to do the work for you. So, light activation, stay at home. Now, there's a lot of studies. We're using growth hormone. I was using growth hormone to treat musculoskeletal conditions before PRP was available. And it may be one of the reasons I got so excited about PRP, because I thought, hey, PRP was explained to me as a way of getting access to your own natural growth hormone, autologous, your own. Love it. Now, I already was aware that growth hormone was helping some of my patients with arthritis, with other injury problems. There's nearly 400 studies been done to show that growth hormone helps heal injuries. But now what we've got is a combination, and I'm happy to say, I believe we're the first clinic to offer growth hormone included in PRP as a treatment. But there's now studies out there showing that the growth hormone is giving, I'm holding my breath. There's hopefully a slide. There is. Thank you, Alyssa. We've actually got a picture of this. So what we're seeing is that this is a WOMAC score of a trial comparing PRP with PRP and growth hormone. And what we're seeing is that the addition of growth hormone to PRP is giving that extra 5% reduction in pain. So it's not a game changer, it's not a deal breaker, but it does make it that much better and faster as an outcome. And I'm thinking particularly for the people who've travelled a long way to get their treatment, we have a lot of those, and also the fluoro brigade, the guys who've got to get back to work because they're tradies, they're all loving the growth. But also people who've got to get ready so they can dance at their granddaughter's wedding, they're loving the growth. Now, a very new addition to our armamentarium for treatment of degenerative disease is medicinal cannabis. Now, what I'm finding is that the sort of people who come to my clinic for PRP are very open to cannabis oil. And there's a few reasons for this. My typical patient suffers from a degenerative condition, has pain and inflammation. And the trigger for me, the trigger question is, does your pain keep you awake at night? And when the answer's yes, I'm then asking them, have you heard about it? And the normal response is, I've heard about it, but I don't know how to get it. I don't know where to get it. And we can help with that. And I'm loving this because I'm finding that, particularly when I catch up with people 3 days later to give them their blood test results, they've already started for a couple of days using the CBD oil. And I would say 60% of patients will be telling me 3 days later that their sleep has already improved. The sort of people who come to us for PRP and cannabis have in common that they're looking for something that's innovative, they're looking for something natural, something safe, an alternative to surgery, and they're also looking for something that is an alternative to big pharma. And so we're all getting fairly excited that we can help people more. CBD is anti-inflammatory. It particularly helps with night pain. But I learned from my patients, I think we should all do this, we've got to listen. Now, I've got some great patients, and many of them are right on the ball with Dr. Izzy's ideas about monitoring sleep patterns and improving our outcomes, particularly for athletes. Things like Oura rings, which are the little electronic rings that measure your heart rate variability, sleep patterns, Apple Watches, Fitbits, all this wearable technology, I believe is going to completely revolutionise how we manage people's health and health outcomes. And particularly, it's really dramatic in terms of what we're seeing is even the type of CBD medicine that people are using has different benefits for sleep patterns. And what we're seeing particularly is that REM sleep and deep sleep can be improved, whereas the majority of sleeping pills make you unconscious. Unfortunately, including red wine, they get unconscious but deteriorate. There'll be some afterwards, courtesy of hematology. We want good quality sleep. We want to monitor our good quality sleep, and we want to be able to change what we're doing during the day, because I'm certainly aware of something I learned. I did my genetics, found out I'm a slow metabolizer of coffee. I've cut the number of cups of coffee I have per day down. I only have one before lunch. I'm now sleeping better. And rather than having coffee to keep me going during the day, I don't need it because I'm having such a good night's sleep. I've got a lot more energy during the day. So little modifications that we make during the day to improve our sleep gives us more energy the next day to help us feel better, be happier, share more love with everyone else. Now, there's some issues with CBD. One of the issues is a lot of people go down a wrong track maybe with isolates. There's a lot of fear about being picked up for a drug test when you're driving your car, and I want to really just close that subject down. I don't think isolates are usually the way to go because they're quite ineffective compared to medicines that contain a mixture of CBD and THC. The isolates are only CBD, which is fine, but it's not as effective and therefore it's more expensive. You probably need 4 times as much to get an effect. So what we're using as an initiating starting point for the majority of my patients, who are people just like you, who have some night pain from joint pain, is a CBD THC mix. Usually it's about a 100-to-1 ratio mix. CBD dominant, that's great for the inflammation. Bit of THC helps you sleep, relieves pain, won't make you stoned, even if you scull the whole bottle. There are some high THC options which are necessary for people with more severe pain, but what I can tell you now is that some of our patients with the Oura rings are getting better sleep patterns from the very first night that they use the CBD oil. They're getting better REM, better deep sleep, so that's exciting. Now we move into the latest stuff with medicinal cannabis. And we focus 99% of our attention so far on CBD and THC. But there's CBG around, which is the extra chemical that helps CBD, THC work, improving sleep, improving pain management. And so we're now moving into an exciting field where there are mixes coming into the marketplace that seem to be working much better with the added CBG than the pure CBDs or THCs. And now another additional thing is terpenes. So when you look at the whole mixture of what is in the cannabis medicine, one of the, if you like, herbs and spices that is in there, poorly understood and poorly defined, are terpenes. Now, how is this relevant to you? Well, because we're actually able to talk about this is not as a drug. So terpenes are not a restricted drug, so you've actually got a few terpenes in the little bottle sitting underneath your thing to take home and try. It's very new, it's very innovative, and it's there for you to give us your feedback on on how you're responding to the terpenes alone. No THC or CBD in it. And that's what it looks like. Now, we've all talked a bit about hyperbaric chamber, but I suppose I'm here just to say how to put it into action. So we've got a hyperbaric chamber. We know that hyperbaric chamber, 100% oxygen, atmosphere of 1.4, we know that this improves healing. The particular thing about it is we like hyperbaric just before we harvest blood for PRP or our XL treatment, particularly good in people who used to be smokers who just stopped. And what this is doing is it's increasing the nitric oxide in your blood. We can also get nitric oxide by using Cialis. So, and a lot of the anti-aging doctors are actually getting into Cialis, not for the sexual benefits, but for the longevity benefits. Nitrous oxide is another anti-aging thing. But nitric oxide particularly works by taking the stem cells that are senescent, sleeping inside your bone marrow or inside the fat cells, and they release it into the bloodstream where we can capture it and then feed it back to you into the damaged area. So you get slightly better PRP with hyperbaric treatment and infrared. And to make life easy, we all know the theories now that infrared works. But it's do you know what? Rob's shared with us his infrared light box, which I've used on my own knee, but you wouldn't believe it, I forget to offer it to patients that's sitting in the back room. We've got an infrared box. Do you want to guess who used the infrared box more than anyone else? Our doctors. Our doctors are actually... It's interesting that some of our treatments, like also XLs, right? A lot of the people who actually use it are doctors, friends of doctors. It's still getting the word out there. But what I'm here to share with you is the cutting edge thing now is things like our infrared sauna. Steve's put one in the back of our training area. Use it, guys. We forget to tell you about it, but it's sitting there. And the data on the scientific data, we've been a bit lucky. We've had the hyperbaric chamber before there was any data on it. We had the infrared chamber. It's now the data's coming through. As my previous speakers said, the heat shock stuff, the data's in now. It's making it practical, and I'm going to invite you to try it out. Particularly when you're waiting for treatment. And probably what we should be doing when people are waiting an hour to see me, offer them light box. Here, we've got this light thing, we'll put it on your knee before we, or hey, would you like to go in the hyperbaric chamber while you're waiting for the doctor? He's running late. We've got the infrared box. Hey, let's go in there. While your blood's spinning, you can put the light box on. We, as doctors, often forget this enhancing stuff. So all you staff, I want you to help us, because we will, I'm sure, absolutely certain, soon it will become a habit. But we aren't actually promoting it as much as we should. Look, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thanks for my co-contributors. Thank you for you, the audience, and all the people who'll be online. Please give us your feedback. We want to do a better job next time, because we're learning just like you are. Thanks very much for coming. Now, we're going to open up for questions, and I know some of you will want to go home, so I will rudely stop the questions, but food, thanks to Humacology, our sponsor tonight, will be coming up the stairs in a minute, so we'll ask some formal questions now with the microphones on. But don't feel you've missed out if you don't get your question in, because we're going to hang around. We're going to have something's going to affect our REM and deep sleep later tonight, and we're going to share our time with you, so we can answer all your questions before we're finished. I'll invite Rob and Izzy to come up and grab the microphone as well. And what we might do, because I think we're recording, Montana's going to take the microphone round so we can all hear your question.
Hi, I have a question. You mentioned 5% extra reduction in pain because of growth hormone. So do people who have menopause, do they still have growth hormone in their blood?
Yeah, good. Look, there's a pretty precipitous drop-off in natural growth hormone at about the age of 40. However, this is a little interest of mine. The existence of serum growth hormone levels in a person does not determine the outcome of local growth hormone treatment. So it isn't actually appropriate to measure a patient's growth hormone levels to try to guess whether the growth hormone is going to help. And even young people like myself can sometimes benefit from a growth hormone shot. And so growth hormone into a joint or into a tendon doesn't depend on you being growth hormone deficient. What I have experienced, and it's a very interesting case, I had a patient who had a significant injury, treated with growth hormone, then discovered that he was growth hormone deficient because he had enormous side effect benefits from the systemic growth hormone side effect. But you don't, whether you're growth hormone deficient is not really critical whether the growth's going to work inside your joint, because nearly everyone needs a little bit more growth.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, whenever we get injured, the body upregulates the growth hormone receptors in the site of injury. So therefore, you've got more growth hormone receptors. It seems that adding growth hormone to that area, like in a knee joint or a shoulder joint, you're going to get more of those upregulated growth hormone receptors being activated. So that's part of the reason why it works so well.
Did anyone else have any questions?
The THC level in the cannabis was 1,000 to 1?
No, the commonest one that I initiate with is a 100 to 1 as a CBD dominant. And that's really good for people who are new to it. However, and that I find that works for about 80% of people quite well. There's some it's not going to work at all. And there's some that will need stronger. And so commonly, the next thing is maybe to use something with the extra CBG terpenes in it, or the next level is a 10-10 would be a classic next one to follow up with. Then you can go much higher. You can go 26%, 25% mixes. And you can actually combine them. You can use a CBD oil for the anti-inflammatory, and you can use a very strong THC, 25%. Actually, I wonder if Glenda would like to share any experience on that, or on the just patient experience of treatment generally. Any special words?
Hi, I'm Glenda McGee. I've been under Peter's treatment for the last 5 years.
At least.
And I come in and get PRP done to my knees. I am a power lifter, and I need to be able to squat. Now, I have no cartilage in either of my knees, and I get both growth hormones and as well as PRP done. I come and see Peter every 3 months because I am in competition. And I've got to be in tip-top shape. The experience that I've had with Peter has been absolutely fantastic. He is a fantastic physician, and I certainly would recommend PRP for pain, to be able to, move your joints, squats, and all of that. That's it.
We're not telling anyone how old you are.
I'm 70.
And also...
I've also had PRP done in my face about 3 times, and it's great. And that's it.
You're doing well. Thank you very much, Glenna. Yes, Montana.
Yes.
Thank you. If you use antidepressants, do you use do you have a treat start using, and then how you transfer cannabis from antidepressants, or do you do together, work together, or?
How you transfer antidepressant to cannabis?
If you use antidepressants,
yes.
So do you recommend cannabis because it's natural, or better antidepressants, or you do both?
Okay, so I tend to steer away from using the word cannabis because for a lot of people it's the recreational thing, and I'm not advocating that people go out and roll a joint to treat their mental health problems. Now, there are a lot of people who use CBD for mental health problems. I'm not a specialist in that at all. I might refer this question to Dr. Rob, who might hide as well from this. But certainly, my use of oil is for people, particularly with sleep problems and musculoskeletal problems. I do know that a lot of patients benefit greatly from CBD for anxiety. And often there's this blend of anxiety, depression, and I think for people who've got an anxious component to their depression, it can be very helpful. And what I like about it is it's one of those things where there's not much downside in trying. So now, that's for initiating treatment. It's much more complicated if someone's already on antidepressant medication. And I personally wouldn't be the person who... No, but this is where we go to Rob.
Okay, so if you're just on an antidepressant and you want to go off it, you really need to take it slowly as you're coming off it, because there's a thing called the discontinuation syndrome, and that's particularly with the SNRI drugs like Effexor, escitalopram, and venlafaxine. And desvenlafaxine, they're the SNRI drugs, so on noradrenaline and serotonin. The SSRIs, you can probably come off them much quicker, but the SNRIs, if you're on those, you've really got to go down slowly because you get these brain zaps. People describe quite vividly these electric shocks in their brain, and they find it very hard to come off it. And they then give it the undeserved reputation of being an addictive substance, but they're not. It just has to be done slowly and managed. And you don't have the same sort of addictive properties like you would with benzodiazepines or opioids or those sorts of drugs. But the way to change from an antidepressant to cannabis oil, and you would be using the high CBD compared to THC type of product, and the way to do it is what's called cross-titration. So cross-titration is where you gradually reduce the antidepressant whilst at the same time starting a small dose of the cannabis and building that up gradually over a 2 to 4 week period. It's quite straightforward. You just have to sit down, do a management plan and work it out with your treating doctor.
I'll just share that quite often we're seeing that people are not properly worked up, assessed and managed before they're diagnosed with depression. We actually have a video on the use of vitamin D for depression. Way underestimated how much depression is associated with deficiency of vitamin D. It's a deficiency of exercise, and often it's a deficiency of hormones. So we're seeing a lot of people, it's actually one of Dr. Isabella's areas, a lot of postmenopausal, menopausal women are diagnosed with depression, where it's actually hormone imbalance. A lot of men are actually around the age of 60, hitting low testosterone levels. They think they're depressed. You treat their testosterone deficiency, depression goes away. And sometimes it's growth hormone deficiency can also. So I actually think antidepressants are what you use when you've tried the other things and other causes of depression have been excluded, because just depression, low mood, feeling flat, feeling tired, it can be nutritional deficiency, hormone deficiency, exercise deficiency.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I'll just jump on this one. So a lot of my patient cohort is women in their early 40s to mid 50s, and it is really striking how many of them who come in with poor sleep, night sweats, mood disturbances, irritability, and they're handed an antidepressant by their GP and said this will help with the hot flushes, this will help make you feel better. At the end of the day, you're experiencing a hormone deficiency, no different than thyroid dysfunction. And we never have a patient walk through who has a low thyroid hormone who we turn to and go, maybe wait another 10 years and see if it gets better. We treat it immediately. So for all those tuning in, and obviously for my audience here, when it comes to mood disturbances related to hormone dysfunction, it is real. What you're experiencing is absolutely valid, and it is something that practitioners out there who do believe in it and can help support you, we do exist. But it's an absolute bugbear of mine. The amount of women who come in and they're not managed properly and they're put on something that makes them feel beige is ridiculous. So yes, hormone dysfunction is a really major one. We've got to treat the organic cause first, not just give you an antidepressant.
I'm treating a lot of people, even young men, who we're now seeing with an epidemic of low testosterone and other bizarre hormones. So just indisputable facts is the average young man nowadays has a testosterone level half what his father's was at the same age. That's been continuing to decline annually for 40 to 50 years. But in the last 3 or 4 years, the curve's plummeted down. And I'm seeing some totally bizarre hormone levels that we don't expect, and you don't find them unless you look for them. Young men with elevated female hormones is extraordinarily common, and no one's testing for it. So we're seeing young men with elevated prolactin, particularly in the acute phase, few months or even a year or two after they've had COVID. High estrogen levels, toxins in our environment, chicken, plastics, mobile phones, stress, all completely disrupting hormone levels. And a lot of GPs are being asked to test for this, and they're saying, oh no, you've got a beard, you don't need your testosterone level measured, or similar things like this, where really, as you know, just it doesn't hurt to ask the question and test.
What are the most common hormones you check?
Most common hormone?
Hormones you check for?
It's different patient by patient. So, I used to do the full panel. So FSH, LH, calculate free testosterone, total test, DHEA. But I'm now pretty much routinely testing a lot of males' estrogen and prolactin. I think the busiest night I ever had, I had 4 young men in one evening with elevated prolactin. Normally a GP would see about 1 every 10 years. It's a 1 in 10,000 condition, traditionally.
What about females? I've had quite a few females that come in recently, females with the age group, asking to have their testosterone, free testosterone, DHEA tested.
Testosterone is produced by the Faker cells in the ovary. That's also the same cell that produces progesterone. It's the first cell that, unfortunately, when we go through menopause, will drop off in its functionality. We know that testosterone is really crucial for not only bone density, but for mood, libido, and muscle retention as well. In all of my female patients, it's LH, FSH, testosterone, calculated free testosterone, and then estrogen and progesterone. This idea that you can't or you shouldn't diagnose menopause based on blood tests, to me is a bit ridiculous, because we can actually start medications that we can measure on those blood tests. So I want a baseline, I want to hear your history, and then I want to initiate treatment, and then I monitor your response. So yeah, absolutely want to be measuring all those hormones.
Yes.
Just want to ask a question about the growth hormone with PRP. Would that help eventually to reactivate? It's probably a silly question, but T cells around the pancreas, because as a type 1 diabetic, that sort of thing would be good to help the pancreas. Is that, or am I getting the wrong end of the stick?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, nice thought. You know, like
nice thought, but no.
No, nice thought, but no. I don't have any technology to reactivate pancreas. No, not me.
No, it was just a question.
No, good. I get the question. Look, when we're using hormones, now Rob may have some clues on that, but certainly for me, I'm using hormones to replace hormones that are deficient. I can't restart. Look, you know what? Aging is an awful lot about our hormones just stop working a little bit, year by year by year. Our job is to slow that process down with lifestyle, diet, supplements, and to replace once it's already deficient, but I can't put a rocket into your pancreas.
Just, I'm sorry, did you ask a question?
Well, regarding sleep,
Yeah.
I had for a long, long time, sleeping next to this girl. I go to bed, 3 hours I get up. And I go back to bed.
Are you going to the bathroom?
Yeah, well, that's usually what gets me up.
Yep.
But I've been doing this for many years, 75 since I was
I'll pass the question to your wife really quickly. Does he snore?
On one side,
Only on one side.
One side of snorer, yeah.
Yep. And so you're just getting up frequently during the night?
Well, I wake up, I'm totally awake.
Yep.
So I think there's no point in me lying here, I'm going to wake come up. So
Exactly.
I go up and read or play the guitar or whatever. Then I get tired about an hour and a half later, go back to bed, sleep quite well.
Yep.
And then sometime in the afternoon, I feel really tired. Bang, an hour's sleep.
Yep.
And I can't believe that I can wake up and be totally awake again.
Yep.
So is that bad or is that good? Preferably all in one.
I think the first question would ask you is what medications are you taking? Get a little bit more of a history from you. I think there's a role for supplementation, and we need to get the data on that. So we need you wearing wearable, and then we can have a look at what's happening. And then supplementation, maybe consider medication. The fact that you're having a sleep in the afternoon is a little bit annoying. It's going to impact your ability to go out and socialise and do the things you want to do. So I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not an optimal thing.
Yeah, okay.
So it could be better.
I'll come and see you.
Yeah, sounds good. I'd love to see you.
I'm going to be rude, Ken. So I reckon we've got a ridiculous amount of food available now. And so I'm going to suggest we shut down the formal part of the evening, but I'm not going anywhere, and we can catch up and chat now about any other questions that you have for us. And so once again, thank you to the team, thank you to the audience. It's been a pleasure.